What's up, guys? This is Dana from Russ's Ocean State Harley-Davidson, and we're here today with our last week of Learn and Win. And this week's we are doing common service questions. So the service department has been gathering questions from our customers for several months now, and we've narrowed them down to like the top 10 questions that we have been getting. So let's start. So one of the biggest questions we've gotten lately is, can I go from a 107-inch Milwaukee 8 all the way to the 131 kit, or from the 114 kit? So basically, if you have a 107-inch Milwaukee 8, you can go all the way up to a 128-inch kit now. That's available to you. And if you have a 114-inch Milwaukee 8, or a 117, you can go up to 131 inches. So basically, from a 107, you can go to 128, and from a 114 or 117, you can go all the way to 131. So that's what Harley's kit allows you to do. Question number 2. Let's see. Pete in Hope Valley says, how tall of bars can I put on a street glide or a road glide specials without changing the cables? So the answer is the HD kit for street glide. You can go up to they have a 12-inch mini 12-inch rise mini apes, and on the road glide they make a 15-inch version. So you can do up to 12 inches on the street glide, 15 inches on the road glide. But you still have to do the switch wire extensions, but basically you can keep all your brake lines and everything else that came stock on the motorcycle up to that height. So all right, let's see. All right, here's a very common one. Do you recommend synthetic or conventional oil in the motorcycle? So this question is a little tricky. The answer is, so in the engine, so you have three cases, right? In most bikes, you have the engine, the primary, and the transmission. So in the engine, we usually do recommend people using synthetic oil. It's not essential. It doesn't do anything to your warranty. It doesn't extend your service interval at all. It's just basically what it is synthetic oils are there's no additives in conventional and synthetic oil, so it can hold more water in suspension. So basically with synthetic oil, you can hold more water in suspension than regular oil or conventional oil. So that's a good thing. A lot of the people say that synthetic oils are a little more tolerant of heat as well. So if your motor's running really hot, sometimes having synthetic oil, because it doesn't have all of the oil is in grade, it just gives your engine a little more protection than you would have from standard oil. So in the engine, short answer is yes, we recommend synthetic oil. The primary and the transmission are a little bit of a different situation. And we recommend using formula unless you're going to go to, I bought a bottle here, this new stuff, this heavy synthetic gear oil is good stuff. It's also a little bit on the pricey side, but in the transmission and the primary, we're not recommending the Syn 3. Only use this in your engine. Yep, your engine only. We're not recommending you put this stuff in your primary tranny. The factory says you can do it. It's not a very thick oil. See, this is 2050, right? And the gear oil is, get lined up in the right place there, 8140. So it's much thicker. All right, here's a question. Let's see. Tony in Cranston wants to know, what does the cloud icon mean? So I think apparently this question was sent in twice. So the cloud icon, if you have a bike with RDRS, you look on your left switch pack, there will be a button that says TC and has a picture of like a cutaway of a tire. It's traction control button. So if you press that button one time while you're riding your motorcycle, the rain cloud, it looks like a cloud with some raindrops under it on your instrument cluster will light up. And that means you're now in rain mode, which makes it so that the anti-lock brakes and some of the other traction control systems are a little more sensitive than they would have to be for dry pavement. So if it's raining, they recommend you turn that on. Basically, it engages your anti-lock brakes a little bit sooner. Then if you press and hold that button, you can actually turn your traction control off. And who would do that? Well, guys that like, guys, drifters, guys that like to do wheelies, drifts, burnouts, stuff like that. It's helpful to be able to turn the traction control off so that, bike's not freaking out. So, all right, let's go on. All right, this was probably the number 1 or 2 question we've gotten over this last summer. It says, will Apple CarPlay work on my radio? So this one, the answer is yes. If you have the new Boombox GTS infotainment system, it is Apple CarPlay compatible, enabled. You need a WIM, wireless interface module, and you need to have a headset, either Bluetooth or, you need to have a wireless headset attached to the radio or paired with your radio. For a little while, there was a workaround on this. You could plug the bike into the digital tech and tell it that it was there, and the Apple CarPlay would work, but Apple has wised up to that. And now they are saying that you have to have, basically the interface is designed to work with a voice activated, Siri and all that other stuff. And if you're not using it in the way that Apple intended you to use it, they don't want you using it because you might not be happy with how it performs, and they didn't design it that way. So Apple's a little stingy with their, development in that regard. So you have to be able to connect to your radio to be able to use your Apple CarPlay with some sort of, headset or voice command implement. Yeah, that's the way it is now. So unfortunately, some guys had it enabled, and then when they came in for a radio update, it became disabled because the Apple update is part of the new radio update. So that's the reality of the situation. If you currently are using Apple CarPlay and you had someone set it up on a digital tech, so you could use it without a wireless interface module and a headset. If you upgrade your radio, you may very well lose that capability. So. All right, next question. How often should I plug my bike into a battery tender? All right, this is basically, so whenever you're not riding the motorcycle and it's in the vicinity of your battery tender plug, I would plug it in. Some guys just plug it in the wintertime. They say they ride their bike enough in the summertime. It takes literally a couple seconds to plug it in. So if you can, plug it in as often as you possibly can. Battery tender is not really a battery charger, it's a milliamp charger. So it puts a very little charge on the battery, it keeps it fresh, keeps it from, going down below the point where these, short cycle batteries, AGM batteries that we sell for Harley-Davidsons are short cycle batteries. They're not deep cycle batteries, which means that they do not like to go low on charge. Every time you make one of these batteries go dead, it damages it significantly. So that's that. So plug it in as much as you can. All right, here we go. What should I do for winterization? All right, this is a good one for this time of year since we're coming into the cold months. Okay, take your bike, get some stable, drive to the gas station, fill up your gas tank all the way, put the stable in the gas tank, drive your motorcycle home, park it on, I recommend parking it, like fill up your tires, top them off with air, park the bike on carpet remnants if you can. Put a cover over your bike, keep the airflow down as much as you possibly can, and park it and don't start it unless you're going to take it for a real ride. Like, don't go out there and start it because you think it's good for the bike to start it once in a while just to run for a minute, because you'll just fill your exhaust system with condensation and make a mess. So once it's winterized and parked and secure, unless you're going to take it for a good ride and heat it up, don't start it, You could also wash your bike too, and all that stuff. You probably should wash it before you put a cover on it. But those items right there, the gas we're selling these days is not the greatest stuff. It's got a lot of ethanol in it. Ethanol is very unstable, especially when it gets water in it, and over time. So definitely put the highest test gas you can, and then make sure when you run the bike home with the stable in your gas tank, you're keeping the gas tank full as possible, but you're also getting that stabilized gas into your fuel injectors, into all your fuel lines, everywhere else on the bike it should be, so that you don't have that little bit of gas that's about to go into your, fuel, your induction module, like that be the first thing that hits it in the spring is this winterized gas. So, all right. Here's the next question. This one came from, looks like Roger. And Roger doesn't give a location, says, how often should I change my fluids if not hitting the mileage service intervals? Oh, this is actually a really good question. So he's basically saying interval service on a bike is 1,000 miles, 5,000, 10,000, 15,000. If you're not riding that 5,000 miles a year, how often should you change the oil? A couple different ways, schools of thought on this, but basically you should change your oil at least yearly. Primary transmission at least every other year. It depends on who you talk to, whether you should change that oil in the fall or in the springtime. If you're keeping your bike in a heated garage, there's no condensation or anything in there, it's nice and secure, I would probably change it in the fall and that way, and just ride it in the spring. If you're in an unheated garage, you're keeping the bike outside, yeah, it could go either way. As long as you're changing it yearly, you're probably being okay. Sometimes it's better to store the bike with clean oil because there'll be no separation of the oil and the water during the winter time. Cases on these bikes are aluminum, so it's not really an issue for the cases, but a lot of the bearings and the componentry of the bike, there's a lot of, corrodable material still inside that bike. So yeah, basic short answer there is at least once a year. All right, next question. How often when should I flush my brake fluid? All right, that's a pretty good question too. The newer bikes that all have the older .4 brake fluid in them. Basically, brake fluid is hygroscopic, which means it holds moisture. And I don't know how the moisture gets in there, but eventually over time brake fluid goes bad. The new bikes with the RDRS and the traction control and all the other stuff, the ABS is super sensitive to the quality of the brake fluid. So basically you should test it at every service interval. If you are greater than 4% moisture content in that brake fluid, it's not really brake fluid anymore. It's contaminated brake fluid and water. So if you have more than 4% in there, it's time to flush that system out. And they should, on a part of our service interval here, like every 5,000 miles, we check the brake fluid. We put a little meter in there and see how much moisture there is. So you should definitely flush that fluid. In cars, they'll tell you every 30,000 miles or every 2 years. Motorcycle, it's not getting as much activity as a car. I don't know, at least every 30,000 miles, but it's really more of a time-based thing because your bike's sitting out in the garage and stuff. So you really want to do it every interval, and you should check it at least every 2 years if you're not hitting your service intervals. All right. All right, so we don't want this to go on too long. So in our top 10 questions, this is the last one. This one says, if I change my mufflers, do I also need a tuner and an air cleaner? This has been a question for a long time. A lot of guys like to just swap the mufflers out on a bike, get the sound that they are looking for, and hope that everything's good. And I've seen plenty of people get away with that and be totally happy with their motorcycle. I will say that's not how the mufflers are designed. The intent is, if you do a stage 1 kit, air cleaner, and exhaust together, that's how you make your bike. You usually get a little horsepower boost. It might even cool off the operating temperature of the bike just a little bit, and you'll relieve some of that popping. And you can exasperate the lean. A lot of these bikes come very leaned out from the factory. They do that to meet the EPA specs. A hotter engine burns off more of the NOx and SOx and all the stuff the EPA is concerned about. So that's why these motors run at such high combustion temperatures, which also makes them run really hot. So if you just change your muffler, now you don't have as much back pressure on the engine, you could be exasperating that problem and actually further causing the lean pop to be an issue. So I would say, if it was me, I would definitely change the air cleaner and do the street tuner and the mufflers all together. Maybe just be happier. It's the whole package. You'll get a better performing bike, and you get all the other benefits you get along with your mufflers, not just the fact that it's a little more volume than the stock pipes. So yeah, that's a really good question. We get that all the time. So yeah, that's it, guys. That's it for our top 10 service questions. We have our Polar Bear service going on, and come on down and take advantage of that. It's running from now through the middle of February. Free pickup and delivery within 20 miles of the store. And yeah, I hope everyone's having a great day. Just can't resist waking up Ham here to say hi to y'all. Say hi, Ham. He's looking at himself on the screen right now going, holy crap. Yeah, so that's it. I hope everyone's having a fantastic day. Thanks for watching, and go down below if you're doing the Learn and Win and answer some questions. And we'll talk to you real soon.